tragic history of Native Americans is not just a story of the past. It is a deep wound in the conscience of humanity. Long before Europeans arrived, millions of indigenous people lived across North America. They were not one single nation. They were hundreds of different tribes, each with its own language, its own traditions, its own spiritual beliefs. They lived in harmony with nature. The land was not property to them. It was sacred for who? Des rivers were life. The buffalo was survival. The forest was home. But everything changed when Europeans arrived. At first, there was trade. Then there was tension. Then there was war. The newcomers wanted land. More land. And then even more. Native tribes tried to defend their homes, but bows and arrows could not compete with guns and cannons. One of the darkest chapters in American history was the Trail of Tears in the 1830s. Thousands of Cherokee people were forced from their ancestral lands. They were marched hundreds of miles during winter, cold, hungry, sick. Thousands died along the way, not because of war, but because they were removed from land that had been theirs for generations. On the Great Plains, tribes like the Lakota, Cheyenne, and Apache faced a different kind of destruction. The buffalo were slaughtered in massive numbers. Millions were killed, not just for meat, but to break the native way of life. Without the buffalo, tribes could not survive. It was a silent war against their existence. In 1890, another tragedy shocked the world: the Wounded Knee Massacre. U.S. soldiers opened fire on Lakota men, women, and children. More than 200 people were killed. Many were unarmed. It marked the end of large-scale native resistance. Leaders like Sitting Bull and Crazy Horse fought bravely to protect their people. They even won a major victory at the Battle of the Little Bighorn in 1876. But in the end, the power imbalance was too great. Native tribes were forced onto reservations, small pieces of land, often poor and isolated. Children were taken from their families, sent to boarding schools. There, they were forbidden to speak their language. Their hair was cut, their traditional clothing removed. They were told to forget who they were. This was not only physical destruction, it was cultural destruction. The Bureau of Indian Affairs controlled many aspects of native life. Poverty spread. Poverty spread, disease spread, alcohol abuse increased. For many communities, the trauma passed from one generation to the next. And yet, Native Americans did not disappear. They survived. They resisted. They remembered Today, millions of Native Americans still live in the United States. They are reviving languages, protecting traditions, telling their own stories. The pain of the past is not fully healed, but the spirit remains strong. The history of Native Americans teaches us something important. When a people lose their land, they lose more than soil. They lose part of their identity. When a people lose their language, they lose their memory. And when memory fades, injustice can repeat itself. Once, the plains echoed with the sound of buffalo herds. Fires burned under open skies. Elders told stories to children who believed the land would always be theirs. Today, highways cross those same plains. Cities stand where villages once stood, but beneath that ground, beneath the noise of the modern world, the memory remains, and it should never be forgotten.